coming to get you, Barbara.
Ever played Skin the Cat?
Someone's in the back seat! Tell me where you are, John!
Wolfman's got narc!
Hi guys, my name is Barry and welcome back to the channel. And as you can see, I've got Ashley and Ken from Sledgehammer Horror. How you doing, guys?
We're doing good.
You're very excited to be here, man.
Yeah.
Excellent. I'm glad you can come on, guys. I really do thank you for coming on to the show. Now, I said to Ken and Ashley before coming on here, I don't do a lot of live streams. So I'm just trying to find some time to get some kind of topics in there in the lead up to Halloween as well. So again, thanks for coming on, guys. I know that we've got quite a time difference. You guys are 5 p.m. over there and it's 10 p.m. over here. So there's kind of a bit of a difference here. But today, if you guys don't already know, we're going to be doing the top 10 horror villains that we've chosen. They can be part of a franchise. They might not be part of a franchise. But luckily, I didn't even think of this, but I thought Ken and Ashley would maybe do a joint top 10. But it's good that they have a separate top 10 so that not only they see my difference, but there's going to be a difference between you guys as well, I'm assuming. And
yeah, we wouldn't have agreed on this list at all.
There's no way.
I know my number one is not even close to his number one. So
right.
I mean, I can't lie and say I don't know her number one.
I know you know.
We don't know each other's list, but I guarantee you we know each other's number one. I know your
number one. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm guessing you obviously don't know each other's top 10s, but because you know each other, I'm assuming you've got a good idea of what's going to make the top 10 at least.
Yeah, we've been married for 18 years, so we know each other a tiny bit.
Yeah. Yeah, well, you think so, but maybe not. You never know. Time will tell.
I'll tell you this. If her number one isn't what I think it is, I will fall out of this chair. I'll tell you that much. I will fall out of the chair.
She might just change it just to
I'm about to change it real quick.
Change it right now.
So what we'll do then is I'll start with my top 10 and then one of you guys can choose who goes next and then we'll just go round the same way. Now, I did say to Ashley and Ken, apologies guys, I've cheated a little bit and I've chosen 11. I'm still doing a top 10, but there was one character that I just felt like I couldn't leave off the list because they were too good a character to not have on there. So I'm going to mention that first and then we can get into the top 10s. If you guys have got an honourable mention that you want to get out the way, then please, by all means, do so as well, okay? So my first one, well, my number 11, my honourable mention is going to be Mick Taylor from Wolf Creek. I don't know if you guys have seen Wolf Creek. Have you seen Wolf Creek?
Yes.
Yeah, we went and seen that in the theater together.
We actually saw that in cinema. Yeah.
All right. Perfect. Well, I saw the first one in the cinema. Unfortunately, I didn't see the second one in the cinema. And I still haven't seen the TV series. Have you guys seen that?
No.
You have? No, you haven't? Well, that's one of the reasons I left it off the top 10 because I've only seen them in 2 movies and I've seen the first one lots of times. Absolutely loved the first movie. And the second one I remembered liking, but I've only seen it once. So I couldn't quite put him in the top 10, but I felt like he's too good a character not to include on this type of list because he's great because he's realistic, but he's obviously unrealistic. He's based on, well, I wouldn't say he's based on a real life character or a real life person, but he's based on a true event from what happened at Wolf Creek in Australia back in 1999. So yeah, he's such a great character. He brings a lot. Is it Jeff? What's his name again? Is it Jeff Jarrett? No, that's a wrestler.
The actor's name?
Yeah, the actor's name. Something Jarrett. Mick I can't remember, but
I'm terrible when it comes to names.
I'm great when it comes to names, but obviously not. But yeah, he's such a great character, such a great actor, and he brings a lot of life to the role. You kind of love him, but you hate him as well, you know. So yeah, I just had to mention him because he's such a great character. Don't know what you guys think of him, or if he's even on your list. Don't tell me if he is. But what do you guys think of Wolf Creek then? Did you like it?
Yeah, I thought it was very creepy. Had me on the edge of my seat the entire time. A lot of anxiety for sure.
Yeah.
And he's just one of those guys that like you just don't want to cross.
No.
Yeah.
He's one of those guys that I feel like you come across that guy and it's just the big burliness of him and how scary, like the imposed, but he's also, like you said, he's got that charisma.
Yeah.
So
you
it's
trust
hard,
him.
right? It's hard not to trust him because of the charisma that he brings.
Yeah, he's so awkward as well. That the
Yeah.
scene around the campfire when he's telling jokes and then the boys laughing. He's like, "What you laughing at?" And you kind of like, "Oh,
You're
are you
like-
joking?
like,
Are you not?"
How am I supposed to feel right now?
Right.
Yeah, yeah, no, yeah. So he's on my list. Oh, he's not on the list, but he has to be mentioned. But do you guys have an honorable mention? If you don't, it's absolutely fine.
I thought of one. I didn't. I stuck to 10, but I did think of one that I didn't put on my list. And that is Larry from Come Play.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah, I don't know if you've seen Come Play or not.
Nope.
It's a really great movie. It talks a lot about like autism and a kid that is nonverbal, so he uses an iPad. And the monster Larry, he comes alive through like electricity.
Through the iPad.
Yeah. So, and that's how he kind of like comes to life. And he's like, you wouldn't think that he would be scary, but just like he's powerful and
Very powerful.
yeah.
And you're right, because autism is something very close to Ashley and I. It's something we work with all the time. And to see, somebody, oh, just put it away. That's how this kid communicates.
Right.
That's his communication device to the outside world. And you can't just take that away from him.
Well, I mean, and then he gets so powerful that he can come through TVs or
he eventually
any
comes
type
through
of
any type of electricity.
Yeah.
Really, really good film from 2020. If you get the chance to check it out, I think you might really dig it, Barry.
Yeah.
Come Play, yeah. Do you know, that's a good thing that you guys are talking about these things because there might be movies that I've never seen before, so it makes me want to check them out. So I need to check that one out. I'll add that to my watch list. Just before we move on, talking about autism, have you guys seen The Babadook?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Movies like that, you get characters like the son in the movie where people don't quite understand like autism or ADHD, etc. And people just like, I don't like that movie because of the kid. And you're like, well, if you kind of understand what he's going through, what the mother's going through, then maybe you'll understand the character more. So that Come Play, it sounds interesting. So I need to add that to my list.
Yeah, for
It's got a really good, not really good, but it's got a really crazy ending to it too.
Yeah.
I really liked the ending.
It made me cry.
Yeah.
For sure. So.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds interesting. And Larry, is Larry the villain?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
Larry's the villain.
Yep.
Right. Okay.
I kind of have two honorable mentions just because, like, one of them I wanted to include just because it's Jigsaw, John Kramer. Is he a killer? Is he a villain? Is he somebody that's doing the right thing? Like, he really toes that line. He's the Punisher of horror for me. So it's hard to really put him on this list as like a straight up villain. The other one I put as an honorable mention because the villain is fantastic, but they just cannot build a movie around this good villain, and that's The Nun.
Yes.
I love the idea of Valak, the Nun. I loved what they did in The Conjuring 2 with the painting. I loved all that, but they just can't nail a good story to give me a great Nun movie. So I can't put it higher on the list because I'm not a fan of the movies that I've seen of The Nun, with the exception of The Conjuring 2. So I gotta say that I love the idea of Valak. I love that juxtaposition of the beautiful nun is actually a demon, like that, that opposite, I think that's amazing. So I'm going to say The Nun and Jigsaw just because Jigsaw toes the line and The Nun hasn't given me a good enough movie yet to really, propel them onto the list. So
yeah.
I would say they're getting better.
Yeah, the second one was better.
Maybe the third one will be even better.
Don't need it. Don't need it.
Yeah.
Well, I think the movie's already made over $200 million, so I think we're definitely going to get one.
We're getting we're getting a third one.
For
I
sure.
totally agree with you, though. Valak as a character, especially in The Conjuring 2, you would think, oh, that would be amazing to have a nun movie. And then when you get it, you're like, how can you mess that up? And then when they do The Nun 2, you're like, okay, maybe you'll do better. And although they did better, I think they did, it still wasn't good enough for a character like Valak.
That's how I feel.
It's a total head scratcher.
I feel like they don't know how to
capitalize on the story.
Yeah, I don't know.
My biggest thing is, and I will say this because I do want to defend The Nun 2 a little bit. I think, and I'm not going to spoil anything because the movie's so fresh, but I think one of the kills in The Nun 2 is the best one in the whole Conjuring franchise. I thought it was brutal. I thought the reason that it was happening was completely brutal. That is one of my favorite kills in the whole Conjuring universe. So I will give The Nun 2 that. And both Nun movies are beautifully shot.
Yeah.
Like the gothic aesthetic, like they look beautiful, but I can't. I think the stories are so weak that it just really bothers me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Was it before, without spoiling anything, which kill was it? Was it the first one or a
The
different
one in the room. The one in the closed off area.
Where they can't,
where they're
the
not supposed to
forbidden
go. The
area.
forbidden area.
Yeah.
Oh, right. Okay, right. Because I thought the first kill was pretty
Yeah.
religious.
That one was good too, but there was just, we'll talk about it when we're off air, but the reason that she went in the room and what was happening, that to me was brutal. Like, I don't want to spoil it.
Yeah. No,
brutal
I know
to me.
exactly
Like,
what you mean, though.
That's a hard thing to deal with in the first place. And then to have it brought back in your face right before you die, like, oh, yeah, terrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, so before we get into the top 10s, we'll just say hello to some of the guys there. We've got Nick is in the house. Hey, Barry.
Okay.
Hey, everyone. Big Al's here. No notification again. Oh, well, only missed a couple of minutes. That happens to me all the time. We get people coming in going, where's the notifications?
Thanks, YouTube.
So annoying. Yeah, I know. We've got Ashton Luck. Hey, everyone.
Hey, what's up, Ashton?
Not JPEG says, how would a horror film directed by John Woo look? Well, he's mostly just kind of actiony. Do you know John Wick? John Woo. No, he directed Face Off.
Hey, I like that movie.
Mission Impossible
I'm not
2.
much like an action movie guy.
Yeah.
It's just, I think that's my least favorite genre of film, honestly. It's just, I don't know. It just doesn't do anything for me.
I think action now is a bit different to back in the. I loved action movies back in the day, like the 90s action movies, like Con Air and The Rock and stuff. But I'm just horror now, to be honest. Horror's my, and I'm sure that's like you guys as well. You've probably seen more horrors throughout the year.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the only thing I feel like we watch anymore.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Either horror or kids movies.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the same with us. It's kids' movies or horror movies. That's it. Right. So we'll go into the top 10 now. I'll start off with my 10th one. I was about to give something away there, but I won't. So my number 10 is Lola Stone, aka Princess from The Loved Ones. Not sure if you've seen that movie, guys. It's an Australian horror movie again. That's the second Australian one I've got on my list. But Lola Princess is this psychotic girl who looks innocent. Have you, before I even begin, have you guys seen the movie?
That's Am I Not Pretty Enough, right?
Yeah.
We've seen it.
I don't remember it.
Yeah, we've seen it. Where she kidnaps.
She's got the drill.
The drill, yeah.
Okay.
But she basically kidnaps this boy. She wants to go to the prom with him. She asks him to the prom, and the boy, he's in the boyfriend. I can't remember his name. Xander something. Xander Samuel from Twilight. He says no to her, but I think he likes her as a friend. But his girlfriend is like, no, he's not going to go to the prom with you. So Lola takes that personal, and she kidnaps this boy, and her and her dad torture this boy throughout the movie. That's what it's basically about. I won't spoil anything if you don't remember or have not seen it, but that was a wicked movie. And the actress that plays Lola, she was absolutely incredible. There's there's some performances that stick with you over the years in horror films, and I try and give more props to female villains because you don't get that many female villains.
Sure.
And she's one of the ones that just stick out like a sore thumb because she was incredible. You actually feel like the actress that plays her is genuinely crazy because she's amazing in the movie. I don't know if you guys can comment on it too much. Maybe you can if you remember it, but she's such a great actress and an amazing character. Very scary as well.
And she's one, like, you also have empathy for her too.
Yeah.
Because she's hurt. And obviously she handles it the wrong way.
Yeah.
But, as and you don't have to be a girl dad or you don't have to have daughters in order to feel empathy for a young lady. That's not what I'm saying. But
I think anybody that's just like let down, they're
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But you don't kidnap them and torture them. And,
No.
And it's got a crazy ending. The walking down the road scene at the end is just absolutely bonkers.
Yeah, and I don't know what it is, but there's something about when that song comes on, Am I Not Pretty Enough?
Yes.
It's just something about that song. It just makes me love it because of what scene it's in the movie. It's so sick, but yet so satisfying. It's so great. Honestly, it's unbelievable. Anyone who's listening in the chat, guys, if you haven't seen the movie, I won't spoil it, but it's balls to the wall, nuts. It's absolutely amazing. And if you want to find a good female villain, she's your woman. She's amazing. Unbelievable.
Imagine Carrie without the supernatural abilities and a little crazier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I'm only joking. You can swear here. Don't worry.
Yeah.
So
I'll let you go before me.
Okay.
Always.
So speaking of female villains, I felt like if I had to choose a villain from Friday the 13th, I was gonna choose Pamela Voorhees because
Does that mean Jason's not on your list at all?
I feel like you could only choose one from the franchise. So, anyways, I feel like she uses the element of surprise. Like she looks like this harmless older lady that is here to help, but really she's not. You know, she's this mama bear that's here to get revenge for her son. And just like the way she kicks butt and she gets yarn thrown at her and pencils thrown at her, and just the way that they fight at the end.
She's got the most beautiful teeth, though.
She does.
Betsy Palmer.
And just like how she flips, like you think that she's this nice, older woman, and then she flips and she's like this crazy, get him, mommy, get him, like stuff like that. Like, yeah.
Great choice. I mean, holy crap, above Jason, that's nuts. But
you know how I feel about that franchise.
Well, you know what? Take this. My number 10 is Michael Myers.
I knew it.
What?
I'm not a Halloween purist.
He's not, and we fight about this all the time.
Look, and I mean this with the utmost respect, because the older I've gotten, the more I've come to really enjoy the Halloween movies. Mm-hmm. But as a kid, I grew up in a video store, and I had access to videos all the time. And I started off with Child's Play, Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street, stuff like that, where it's really graphic and really inventive. And then I watched Michael, and I'm like, this guy's so boring. Yeah. It is so boring. Like, it's just stabby. And like, to me, like I
feel like that's real though.
Exactly. Like I said, as I've gotten older, I think he's the scariest because he's just your neighbor that went crazy, bought a Bill Shatner mask, spray painted it, put it on his head, and was like, Star Trek. But when it comes to the villains, he's just one that I just never really identified with. And the way that they've changed him so many times throughout the franchises, like when you get the Thorn trilogy, that's my least favorite version of Michael. When you have, don't even get me started on Halloween 6. I hate that movie. But I think Rob Zombie's Halloween. I love Tyler Mane. I think he did a fantastic job as Michael. James Jude Courtney did a fantastic job as Michael. And there's just so many things about Michael that one of the scariest scenes of any of the Halloweens to me is when Laurie pulls his mask off in the first one, and he steps out in the light and you just see his face. And he just pulls that mask back down, because it's not a burn victim.
No.
It's not a monster that drowned in a lake. It's not a little leprechaun that's trying to get his gold. It's just a guy. It's just your next door neighbor that went absolutely insane.
Yeah.
So I love the idea of the shape. I love the idea of the boogeyman, but Michael as a villain, to me, I just think the people above him that I have affected me more in my life throughout the course. So 10, I got old Mikey.
Yeah, that's not a problem at all. We've got Big Al that says, did the colour just drain from Barry's face then? But the thing is, though, guys, there's so many horror villains out there, and the fact that Michael Myers makes your top 10 is still great. Of all the there's hundreds of villains out there, and he's still in your top 10. So he's not everyone's favourite villain. He's not always going to be everyone's favourite villain. There will be certain things. I've spoke to you about this before, Ken, on your channel, about the feeling you've got for a specific movie when you're young, when you go to the video store and rent that favorite movie, that first horror movie that they watch. Sometimes that connection sticks with you. And if you weren't connected to Michael Myers at a specific age, then it's kind of going to get lost. You have to learn to like him throughout the years, So
yeah, I kind of beat it into
well, and that's a whole other thing about it too, is like Halloween's her favorite franchise. So like I gotta poke at it as much as I possibly can just to have fun with her.
Yeah. I mean, you don't have
to. But looking at going back to Pamela Voorhees as well, Ashley, a lot of people hate on Friday the 13th because it doesn't have Jason Voorhees in it, or at least until the end. So Pamela Voorhees kind of gets brushed over quite a lot because she's not Jason. And fair enough, she's not Jason. But if you watch that movie and they didn't get any sequels at all, I think people would look back on the original more fondly and more fondly on Pamela if there wasn't a Jason. So totally justifiable to have her on the top 10 as well.
I mean, I think she would have made my list if we would have had more of her.
Yeah.
I just hate that we only get her for like the third act of that film. I wish we could have gotten her like sprinkled in here and there with little parts of just being this crazy lady. Like I've been petitioning for what, 10 years now. I want to see a Friday the 13th remake of the original Friday the 13th with Kathy Bates playing Mrs. Voorhees. I think Kathy Bates could be an amazing Mrs. Voorhees. I would just love to
a good
see
show.
that.
Yeah, she
A
would
good
be.
show.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. So we'll go into number 9. Okay. So my number 9, I don't know if this is starting to sound like a cheat now because of what you said before, Ken, but my number 9 is John Kramer from the Saw franchise.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, I still see him as a villain, even though he doesn't kill anyone, but he puts people in a position where they have to kill or be killed. So he doesn't need to do that, especially some of the victims that he's chosen over the years.
Yeah.
Maybe they didn't deserve it as much as he thinks they did. But I think I've not seen the new Saw movie yet, and maybe he could be higher on the list after seeing that movie. But the first movie that he was in, he's sort of like Pamela Voorhees. He's not in it until the end of the movie. He's lying there.
Right.
He doesn't do anything or say anything. But I think it's the effects of what he does in that film and the rest of the movies where he set up the traps. He's got the knowledge to do that. And you also feel for him as well because of what he's going through personally and his illness. So he's a character that's 3-dimensional and you feel for him, but you also don't want him to win depending on who it is he's got a trap set for. So I've got so many emotions for John Kramer because I like him, but I hate him. He's like the anti-hero. But because he's lasted so long, he's almost 19 years in the making now, and he's still going strong this year. So I think he deserves to be mentioned. So he's definitely in my top 10.
Yeah.
Well, he's much like Elise from Insidious. Like they killed John in Saw 3, and they keep finding ways to bring him back because that's how much of an impact he has. I mean, and that's how charismatic. And same thing, like I said, with Elise in Insidious. You kill her in the first movie, but you keep writing her back into the next movies just so that way you can have her back because her presence is so needed. So
they're fan favorites.
Exactly.
I think they kicked themselves for killing her off.
Right. So I get, and like I said, the John Kramer thing, that to me is like a total coin flip.
Yeah.
I can see the argument for both sides.
Well, at some aspects, like, okay, some of these people are bad people, but then like he's doing it because someone's a smoker. Like, come on, John. Like, that's a little far fetched.
Yeah.
Or because this girl's cheating on her boyfriend with another guy, and they got to be in that one with the saw. Like, that's a little bit of a stretch there, John.
Yeah. Like, does Jeffrey need to lose her life? Probably not.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of why I would put him as a villain, because there's certain things that he shouldn't get involved in, like domestic issues and stuff.
Right.
Leave that out. If it's murderers and stuff, I can see his point. But little small things, you're like, come on, leave them alone. So so that's my number 9.
All right, my number 9 is Freddy Krueger.
Bruh, and you are killing me right now.
It's Robert Englund. That's my Freddy Krueger. But I do have to say, what's his name? Haley.
Jackie Earle Haley.
Jackie Earle Haley. I didn't hate him as Freddy Krueger.
No,
I thought he was super creepy, and he actually made you hate him. He just like his one-liners and stuff, like they weren't funny like Robert Englund's were. They were creepy and like they made you cringe. Yeah. Whereas Robert's, his one-liners, you were like, oh, he's funny, and he's got charisma and he's killing these teenagers. So, and I think it's just frightening that I love my sleep. So if I'm dozing off is going to be fatal to me, like that's horrible. Yeah. Like I'm dead because I like a good nap. So yeah.
I'm not even gonna lie. I hate that choice, but I love you. So
you hate it that it's number 9.
Yeah.
Oh.
My number 9. We all float down here. I'm going with Pennywise. I think that and I like you. I'm gonna say Tim Curry's affected me more.
Oh yeah.
Because Tim Curry's version is like I said, the beautiful clown on the outside and the monster on the inside. So I feel like Tim Curry's Pennywise is more of an approachable character. I feel like that's more scary. I thought that the new kid Bill Skarsgård, I thought he did great as Pennywise, but I think that Tim's was the original, and it's just so much scarier because he was a beautiful clown on the outside, much like John Wayne Gacy, his inspiration.
Right.
He was this beautiful clown on the outside, but the just most disgusting monster on the inside. So, big fan of the It movies. I also like the remake. You know, I know a lot of people didn't like 17 or 19. I'll be completely honest, and I know it's the hottest of hot takes. It 2019 is my favorite of the bunch. I love Bill Hader. The way he just ate up the scenery in that movie, it is disgusting he didn't win awards for his role as Richie in that movie. He was just so good, and he made you laugh in that movie. He made you cry. He made you feel things. Like, every time he was on screen, he completely stole the show. And so I'm a huge fan of Bill Hader. Love Pennywise as a villain. So Pennywise to me is my number 9.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good choice. At chapter 2, they were so on point with all the adult actors playing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You know, the kids going in that. That was unbelievable. Everybody was great. Here's a fun fact for you. You know James McAvoy?
Yeah.
Yeah. I used to work in the same supermarket as James McAvoy when we were kids.
Really?
That's awesome.
That is awesome.
He was in the bakery department and I was in the fruit and veg department. And then he left and we're like, oh, where's James? He's like, oh, he's moved down to London. I'm like, all right, okay. And then a couple of weeks later, we saw him on Band of Brothers, you know, the TV show Band of Brothers, Tom Hanks produced show. I'm like, there's James from Bakery. And I'm like, no, it can't be him. And it was James. And now he's massive, absolutely massive. So yeah,
That's
so
awesome.
jealous. That could have been me.
Yeah. That's cool.
Maybe. Right. So we'll move on to number 8. My number 8 is Chucky, Charles Lee Ray from the Child's Play franchise. I'm sure you know Chucky.
Yeah.
You look disappointed, Ken.
I think the color from his face just left.
Is the color leaving your face?
Yeah, the color's leaving my face now.
I didn't know you didn't like Chucky. So yeah, Chucky's great for me. Like, he's one of these. I didn't see Chucky until I was a little bit older. Like, I was more into the Jasons, the Freddys, the Michaels and stuff when I was younger. And then Chucky, I didn't really get introduced to Chucky till I was like 12 or so. So the Chucky franchise is a bit up and down for me because there's some movies in the franchise that are just really bad. I can't watch again, like Seed of Chucky, Cult of Chucky. I've not even seen the TV show because I know it's more like Seed and Cult. But I'll give Chucky his due. In Child's Play 2, he was incredible. I even liked Chucky in Curse of Chucky. It was kind of like a return to form for the franchise, and obviously the original as well. So Chucky's fantastic. And don't shoot me here, but I actually really liked the remake as well from 2019.
We love the remake.
Yeah. It's obviously not Chucky. It's just different. And it's still there. The feeling of Chucky is still there. So yeah, but Chucky's one of these characters who's luckily not had, obviously we've had a remake in 2019, but the original Chucky's still going to this day. Yeah. Since 1988. So it's 35 years in the making and he's still going strong. So you have to include him in the list. So yeah, he's number 8 for me.
And something we've talked about, we feel that the Child's Play 2019, if they would have called that movie Buddy from the world of Child's Play, it could have made a huge difference in the way that film was marketed. You didn't even have to name the doll Chucky at that point.
No, because I mean, it's not Charles Lee Ray.
Right, which thank God.
I'm glad that they didn't go, that way. They made it their own, but they should have just, like you said, named it something different.
Buddy from the world of Child's Play. And then, because that studio didn't even own the rights to Child's Play 2. They didn't own the rights to that name. So if that film was successful, they couldn't have made a Child's Play 2 anyway. They wrote themselves into a corner.
Right.
But if you called it Buddy from the world of Child's Play, then you could have gotten Buddy 2. It could have just carried on that way.
And I think the diehard, Chucky fans would have perceived it a little better.
I didn't even want to see it.
It's a lot of hate. He didn't. I made him go see it with me.
I was like, Don Mancini's against this film.
Yeah.
I'm a Don Mancini guy. I'm not going to watch it. And then I watched it and I was like, wow, that was really good. It was gory. It was graphic. It was funny. It was everything that made Chucky Chucky. It just wasn't Charles Lee Ray, which, thank God.
Right.
There's only one Charles Lee Ray. So thank God they didn't try to redo all that. I'm glad they went the direction they did because Charles Lee Ray is perfect the way he was.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think the only thing I didn't like was the forced way of calling him Chucky. And that was it. But again, no need to call him Chucky.
Right.
Apart from that, I liked it.
Yeah. Again, if you just made it in the world of Child's Play,
Yeah.
you don't have to call him Chucky.
And then we could have gotten the Buddy Bear
Oh
killing
God, I would have
people.
loved to see a Buddy Bear movie. That would have been
Yeah.
so dope.
Or the blonde-haired
Yeah.
one.
Or the leprechaun buddy.
Yeah.
We're on number 8, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so my number 8 is Rose the Hat. I feel like she is so beautiful and she has that like villain swag. And she's just so evil, but she's powerful, and you almost like don't want to hate her, but she, you know, obviously uses children to get, you know, these charged children to you know,
suck up their shining.
Yeah, to suck their shining. But just the way how powerful she is, and like I said, she's beautiful. She's just got this swag about her, and she's just so smooth. And I really like Rose the Hat. We did this like horror madness thing where
It was like the March Madness, basketball March Madness, but we did it with horror villains.
With horror villains, and she actually won it for me. So I think she's super powerful. And
It's Rebecca Ferguson, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh, she's really nice in that film. She's really good.
Yeah, she's great.
That's a good choice.
Thank you.
I'd never even thought of that, to be honest. So that's a really good choice. And again, she's one that the character itself was made better because of Rebecca Ferguson. You know, if it was someone else, it might not have been as good. Might have been, but maybe not. But yeah, Rebecca Ferguson was great.
Yeah, I agree.
You say his name 5 times, he's gonna come and gut you. I'm going with the Candyman at number 8. I really, and I'm one of those people. I really like Candyman 2 as well.
Yeah.
Farewell to Flesh. I like Candyman 2. Day of the Dead I could do without. But you know, Tony Todd, his presence, and I didn't hate the remake. I thought the remake, again, it was beautifully shot. There was some good kills in it. And the reboot. I'm sorry, it's a sequel. It's technically a sequel.
Right.
Yeah.
And I like the idea of different Candy men. You know, because what I think of as the boogeyman or Candyman, Barry, you might not.
Yeah.
You know, so having it be a different looking villain, I'm fine with that. But you go back to that first movie, and it's such an artsy film, and it's beautifully shot. And Candyman is just like, he's so like romantic, and
just like his voice is memorizing.
Yeah, he's just so, and he's scary. You know, and there's moments in that movie like when the little kid got his private parts chopped off. He's laying in the bathroom, or when he opens his jacket and you got all the bees.
That
and the
scared me. When
bees are coming out of his mouth, and it's all practically done. There's no CGI. It's all real bees. Yeah, Candyman to me is just absolutely phenomenal. The first film is it's a masterpiece. Clive Barker, masterpiece. So I'm going with Candyman. Love it.
Yeah. Well, Candyman, unfortunately, is not on my list, and for good reason. And that's because when I was younger, it wasn't bees, it was wasps. But I was playing with my friends when I was 12, and we were climbing over this wall, and I landed on the ground, and I thought I was standing on like jaggy nettles or something, like something that was jagging me. And I looked down, and it was all wasps stinging me. So I tried to run away, and I kept on getting weaker and weaker as they kept stinging me. And then I kind of zoned out, and I woke up, and there was this woman carrying me. And then I just fell back. I felt like I was going back to sleep again. Then I woke up in my house, and there was all these wasps all on top of me. And luckily, my next door neighbor was a nurse, and she had a big jar of vinegar. So they put me in a bath of vinegar, and I was screaming because it was so sore. And they had to try and keep me awake. So they were counting all the little holes on my body, and I counted 87 holes on my body. I got stung with 87 wasps, and my friends called me the My Girl Kid because of Macaulay Culkin. But
Barry can't see without his glasses.
But that is like, whenever I watch Candyman, I can feel the wasps on me, even though it's bees. I can feel the wasps on me. And I'm like, oh, I just can't watch that film anymore because of that traumatic experience. That was horrible. But yeah, totally off topic there, guys. But
yeah, there's your trigger right there.
Yeah, nah. So on to number 7. Number 7 for me is Death from the Final Destination movies. So
we'll put Death on there.
So it's kind of unique because it's not a physical being that's doing the killing, but you know it's intentional because death comes back for you when you try and cheat it. There's so many creative ways that people die in the Final Destination movies. They get more creative as the movies go on. Sometimes the quality of the films deteriorate, but the quality of the deaths just get better and better and more creative. So I had to put death on there. If I had to embody death, I always think of Tony Todd, even though he's just Mr. Bloodworth. But it's almost like he knows death because he works in the morgue and he deals with death all the time. And yeah, I felt like I had to put it on there because if you're ever looking at creative deaths in a franchise or in any movie, then you always go to movies like Final Destination because some of the death scenes in that are amazing. Amazing for us to watch, but not for the people for it to happen. Have you seen Final Destination 5?
That's my favorite one.
Yeah. So my favorite death is the one in the gym with the girl on the beam.
Yeah.
That I was like, oh no, what's going to happen? Because you see the little screw on the beam.
And you're waiting for it.
Yeah.
You're just waiting for it. But because it's the fifth one in the franchise, you know that screw is going to have nothing to do with her death.
Right.
But you don't know how she's going to die. And the way she dies, you're just like, oh, that is sick. But yeah, honestly, and that's just one of the many great deaths in the whole franchise. But had to put it on there because if you count death as a villain, he's definitely up there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it's one of those things where you're watching it and you're especially like I said, by the time you get to the fifth entry, you're like, well, what are we doing now? And especially after watching 4, I wasn't a big fan of 4.
Yeah,
The fourth's got a lot of bad CGI.
Oh, the fourth one looked terrible.
Yeah.
But then you watch the fifth one, and I was genuinely like blown away at how surprised I was by the how good it looked. Then you get to the ending, obviously, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, I never expected that at all.
Yeah.
Holy Flight 180.
Yeah.
I remember I was in the cinema watching part 5 with my wife, and at the end of the movie, when they're on the flight, I just went like this, no way. And I was like to my wife, can you believe this? And she's like, what? And I'm like, oh, what do you mean what? Honestly, it was unbelievable. That was one of the best twists I've ever seen because you don't expect a twist in any of the movies. And that took the movie from great to fantastic because of that twist. Honestly, so good. Yeah, sorry. But yeah, that was amazing, that twist. But yeah, death definitely up there.
Nice. My number 7, it's kind of a cheat a little bit because it's 2 of them. And it's Ghostface, but I chose Billy and Stu because they're my favorite Ghostface. From the beginning, you kind of suspect Billy because he just seems so evil the entire time. But then you watch him die in that bedroom. So you're like, okay, then who really is it? And then you find out that there's 2 killers. And just the way Matthew Lillard, his like over the top acting, I love it. Like it lands for me. And just the way Billy, he like, you finally find out that it's
we
him.
all go a little nuts sometimes.
Yeah. I love it.
That's a great line. So memorable as well, because that's obviously the first time you see killers being revealed in the franchise. And you're never going to forget that time, especially like you said, Ashley, that you think it's Billy and then it's not. Then you think it's Billy and then he dies. And then you're like, obviously, it's not Billy then. And then it's Billy. And you're like, what? Yeah. So, yeah, it's a great choice. Great choice.
I think people forget how great that twist was when we first seen it.
Yeah, because, I mean...
we had just watched him die.
Right.
So, my number 7, she talked about our Maniac Madness we did. Rose the Hat won hers. Well, this is who won mine, and that is Pinhead. I love Hellraiser 1 and 2. Hellraiser 2 is actually my personal favorite in that franchise. And I could have put Julia on this list instead of Pinhead because I think Julia is just a downright evil woman.
Yeah.
That got she found a guy that pleased her so well she was willing to kill to bring him back from the dead. But just everything he does, like for the limited amount of time that Pinhead's in especially the first 2 films, every time he's there, you are absolutely drawn to him. Demons to some, angels to others, these lines, and you're just like, wow. And that voice, like that terrifying voice. I just always been a huge fan of Pinhead ever since I saw the VHS cover of him holding the configuration, which we have right here. Ever since then, I've been a huge fan of Pinhead and Doug Bradley, and he's a sweetheart, nicest guy in the world. So Pinhead had to make my list just because I feel like he's just that villain that is just so. I mean, he's a priest of hell,
right?
He's a hell priest. Like he's all powerful.
Yeah.
So Yeah, I went
Yeah.
with Pinhead at number 7.
Yeah, but Pinhead's one of those characters that grows as the franchise grows because it wasn't a main character in the first movie.
Right.
And then he becomes bigger and bigger and bigger until the third one where he's killing like 500 people or something at a party. So yeah, he's one of the ones that grows within the franchise. He gets better as the franchise, unfortunately for me, gets worse, but he's the shining light. What did you think of the Hellraiser remake or the reboot?
I mean, I wanted to like it more than I did. I didn't mind the new Pinhead. Like, none of that's ever bothered me. Pinhead in the original book is asexual. You know, they've never declared that Pinhead's a man or woman. But the story just didn't do it for me, and it wasn't as sexy or BDSM like as the other movies are. And I don't need that, but at least kind of keep it a little bit close to the vest on that. I thought that the Cenobites were great in the reboot. I thought the acting was fantastic, but overall, it just didn't do it for me. I didn't hate it, but she's not a Hellraiser fan.
I'm not a Hellraiser fan, so I mean, I watched the remake, but again, it's not for me.
And I absolutely, like I said, I adore the first two. I like the third one, especially that scene with Doug Bradley in that church. That whole scene is badass. After that, I could do without. But Pinhead himself, like I 100% agree with you, Barry. As the franchise gets worse, Pinhead gets better. Yeah. I completely agree with that.
Yeah, totally. So next up is number 6. My number 6 is one that you've mentioned already, Ken, and that is Pennywise the Dancing Clown. So it, for me, when I was younger, watching the miniseries in 1990, it scared the life out of me as a kid. We spoke about clowns all the time when we were younger, and just seeing this Pennywise on screen, what made it more personal was he was chasing kids my age when we were watching, so we could feel like we were part of the Losers Club. When we were younger, we had our own Losers Club around with our friends and stuff, and it even got to a point in Scotland. We had people see in 1990, 91, we had sightings of clowns in vans going about schools, apparently. And it got so bad that we even had our head teacher would bring everybody in and tell us about the dangers of these vans. If you see anyone dressed as clowns, don't go near them. It was a bad, big thing back then. And we don't know if it was just like an urban legend, but it get passed around and everybody was totally scared of these clowns. And then when the remake came out in 2017, the movie, the same thing happened again. It was all online. I'm sure you guys saw people, the clowns online and stuff. So it was massive. And I think it's because there is that, I can't remember the name of it, the phobia of clowns. It's a real thing. And when I saw the movie, it blew me away. I loved the movie. Some people don't like it. I absolutely love it. And like you, Ken, I absolutely love part 2 as well. Bill Hader, unbelievable. I didn't want to say it because it was on my list, but Bill Hader, he's incredible. He's unbelievable. And he did make me laugh and he made me cry. See that moment where he had to let go? I was like, no way. This is a horror movie that's making me cry. Such a great movie. I love both of them. I love the TV show. When it comes to Pennywise, I love both of them equally because Tim Curry brought that originality. Tim Curry's a master of everything that he does. But Bill Hader, he didn't come into it thinking, I'm going to do better. He came into it saying, I'm going to do something different.
Right.
And he did. And he was equally as great, equally as scary as Tim Curry. No one's better than the other person. They're different, and I love them both. But both of them terrified me. Even watching Bill Hader as an adult, I'm watching it going, this is scary. And I'm an adult watching this movie. So they done something for me as a kid and as an adult. So Pennywise, absolutely on the list.
Nice.
Ashley is going to run through her list real quick.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately she has to leave. We had some weather issues here in Michigan last night. So our daughter's dance class got rescheduled to today. So Ashley's going to speed through her list for us real quick.
Okay. So my number 6 is Bagul from Sinister, the Eater of Children. Scared me, like, even though he's really just sprinkled throughout, and really it's the kids that are scary in this movie, just like his appearance and just what he is, it creeps me out. And there's a jump scene in that movie that gets me every time, even when I know it's coming. The lawnmower. And then I have Pennywise as well. Have to go with Tim Curry because, again, he's so charismatic. And like you said, Ken, he looks like a clown that a kid would go up to and ask for him to make you a balloon animal or something. And then he's going to open his big old mouth and eat you.
Yeah.
Well, as where Bill Skarsgård, though I thought he did an amazing job, he was so scary from the beginning. And then number 4 is Mary Shaw. Beware the Stare.
Dead Silence.
From Dead Silence.
That's a good one.
I think she is terrifying. And also just, if you scream, she rips out your tongue, and just her backstory is really sad, I guess, because they were making fun of her, and then she took that boy, and then she was after the family.
Who's the dummy now?
Yeah. And then Mommy and Daddy from People Under the Stairs. Yeah.
That's another really good one.
That's very original, yeah.
Is one of my favorite horror movies ever. I love that movie, and I just feel like they're both so creepy. Like Mommy, just the way she constantly is looking out the window, and just the way she treats Alice. And then Daddy, when he has that bondage suit on, and he's trying to get the what's the kid in the wall?
Roach
in the wall.
Yeah.
Yes, and he can never get him, and he gets more angrier, and just like what's the actor's name that plays Daddy?
Everett McGill.
Everett McGill,
yeah.
Yes. He's such a great villain. He's so scary in everything he does, and he's just like this big burly guy.
Yeah.
And just his face, he looks like he could be such an evil man, but I guess in real life he's like the sweetest guy ever.
The sweetest, kindest guy in the world is what our buddies told us. Like, they met him. He came out to a screening at their movie theater that they run, and they were like, dude, Everett McGill is the kind. They did a Silver Bullet 4th of July screening.
Yeah.
And Everett McGill came out as a celebrity guest. They said he was just the sweetest guy.
My number 2 again is a cheat because it's 2 of them, and it's Chucky and Tiffany. I feel like if you have one, you have to have the other, because I love Bride of Chucky. It's my favorite in the franchise. And I just love how they play off of each other. And Chucky has his one-liners, and he really comes into his own in the second movie. And then I just feel like when Tiffany's involved, it just makes the franchise even better. Just my opinion.
Fair
and
enough.
then my number 1, I'm sure you already know, it is my Michael Myers. Favorite franchise. Like I said, I was always scared of him as a kid because he was a real man that just went crazy. He's got the devil's eyes, and he's gonna fall asleep because whatever. At least you had him on your list. But I mean, he doesn't. Yeah. He stalks people, and he's just killing these teens for really no reason. And that could be real. He didn't drown in a lake and come back. And
yeah, which I noticed you didn't have on your list at all. That's disgusting.
I had him on there, but
despicable.
But that is my list. Thank you very much for having us on.
It's a solid list.
Yeah, thank you. And you, all right, you guys have a good one.
Yeah, Ashley can see your top 6 when she comes back.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Right, see ya.
So I'm going to piggyback off what I believe was Ashley's either 6 or 7, and I'm going to go with Ghostface. I am a Scream fan. I don't know which one I would go with, though. If I have to choose, I'm probably going to go, Billy and Stu. But I am partial to Mrs. Loomis, man. Like, I've always been a big fan of that reveal. I was like, hey, Aunt Jackie. But no, it's Mrs. Loomis. So I'm going to go with Ghostface at number 6 for me as well.
Yeah, it's a great choice. It's hard to choose a Ghostface because are you choosing Ghostface as Ghostface, or are you choosing a specific character and that's made you choose Ghostface? Like Ashley chose it because of Billy and Stu, and have you chose it based on Mrs. Loomis or just because it's Ghostface?
And that is the hardest thing for me, because Ghostface is the hardest villain to nail down, like you said, because when you're talking about Jason Voorhees, Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, you're talking about the human being. When you're talking about Ghostface, you're talking about the costume. So, bringing it to life is such a hard thing to do. And Billy and Stu is the obvious answer, just because when you get to know that the personal part of them, they have such charisma and they're so fun and easy to root for. But, it's hard because you don't really get to see their personality as Ghostface.
Yeah. No, definitely. So we're going to go into our top 5, but we'll just go to the chat quickly just to see what people are saying. Not JPEG says Jenna Dune's Tamara or Jennifer's Body. They might be on the lists. You never know. Dice Rollins in the house. Dice said Tall Man being mentioned. Hey, Dice. Tall Man's not been mentioned yet. It possibly might. I don't know if maybe Ken's got it on his list. You never know. So what we'll do is we'll go into the top 5 now. My number 5 is Leatherface from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Now, Leatherface in this franchise is completely different in almost every movie. The only time Leatherface is the same, and this is probably why he's on my list, is because of that connection between the 2003 remake and the 2006 prequel. It's the first time that Leatherface in any of the franchises felt the same from one movie to the next. And it's because it's obviously a duology. He, for me, is absolutely frightening in the remake and the prequel. Have you seen all the Texas Chainsaw movies?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
We did a whole week-long watch of them to rank them on our channel.
Where did the remake rank for you, out of interest? Number 3? Yeah. Right. It's my favourite in the franchise by a mile. I do love the original Leatherface from the first movie simply because it's so grindhouse-like, like guerrilla style, the way it's shot, the way Leatherface is, because he's obviously been made to be this like simple villain, and that's what makes him scary because you don't know what he's going to do or what he's capable of. But when you go back and watch that movie, even when you watch the remake, he's not the main villain. He's part of a family of villains, you know. Right. But he stands out because he's Leatherface. He's the one with the chainsaw, even though nobody dies by a chainsaw in the first movie. So, yeah. And because he is so different in all the films, I think he's got something to offer in every movie because he's a cross-dresser in part 4. He's all a cross-dresser anyway, but in part 4 he goes full cross-dress. He's big and bulky in part 3. He's a bit of a joke in part 2, but still scary. So he's different in all the movies. But for me, the remake and the prequel to the remake, when he's played by Andrew Barinsky, I know that a lot of people don't like him for his comments on Gunnar Hansen, but he did play the role pretty well, and he was pretty big and brutal through the 2 movies.
See, it's funny because like my third favorite was the remake, and my second favorite, which I never hear anybody give any love to, was Leatherface, the prequel, the newest one, besides 2022.
The Stephen Dorff one?
Yeah, I loved that movie. I thought that was fantastic. Like, it went super dark. I just wish they would have made Bud Leatherface. Sometimes the obvious answer is the best answer.
Yeah.
But I really liked that movie, and the original will always be my favorite. But yeah, I really liked those 3 movies a lot, especially.
Yeah, I didn't hate Leatherface. I think it felt like From Dusk Till Dawn, like a road movie, and they've slapped on Leatherface just to make it marketable. But if they made that movie something else, and then the skinny boy ended up being just a killer, then I would think, do you know what? I dig this movie. It's actually really good. It just felt like it didn't have a place in the franchise for a Texas Chainsaw movie, but I think it was decent, good, well acted, nicely shot. The mood, the atmosphere, everything was there. It just didn't feel to me like a true Texas Chainsaw movie, but great road movie.
That's fair.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Right. So you're number 5 now, Ken.
And I got to show you, just so you know I'm not cheating here. My number 5 is the Tall Man, Dice.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, just so you know I didn't add it in, like the Tall Man. The one that scared me the most as a kid. The boy, and the sphere, like that was like the scariest to me as a kid. Still one of my favorite horror accessories to this day. We just did our top 10 horror movie accessories, and that was my number 1. Right. I think that, the Phantasm movies are criminally underrated. I think that the Tall Man is a criminally underrated villain. He's absolutely terrifying to me. Always been a big fan of the franchise. I actually just went back and rewatched 3 a couple months ago and just remembered how much I truly, truly love that whole franchise. So it's funny that Dice mentioned it, but there you go, Dice. I do have the Tall Man at number 5.
Well, I've got a confession to make. I've never seen any Phantasm movie ever. So
I mean,
it's one
especially
of
the
them to
first
watch.
three. The first three they're so much fun.
Mhm.
The first one is absolutely terrifying. Like to me, it's always just been a very scary film. The second one teeters, walks the line. The third one is definitely more comedic, but there's still a lot of genuine fear and genuine scares that go on throughout the third one. So, I would strongly recommend at least the first three. They're all three are so worth a watch.
Yeah, I think I will watch them because they look like movies that are up my street. So I definitely want to check them out. I think it's directed by Don Cascarello.
Yeah, the first one. And then I don't know who did the last because they just had five come out not that long ago, and I don't know who directed that one.
Mhm.
But that one kind of goes off the rails. Like that
Right.
one goes really crazy with the lore. So that one was a harder one for me to get into, but the original three are definitely worth the watch, Barry.
Right. Yeah, no, I'll definitely watch them. I think I've actually got a few of them on DVD. Not even upgraded to Blu-ray on those ones yet, but I think I'll definitely check them out.
Oh, please.
Mhm. Right. So my number 4 is. See, when I look at these on the list, I feel like I'm just doing the usual. But my number 4 is Jason Voorhees from the Friday the 13th franchise. Jason is a character similar to Leatherface, I guess, that he feels different in all the movies that he's in. Even in the first movie when he comes out of the water, he's different in all the films, but he's different in good ways. I think the scariest Jason for me was part 3 when see that scene when he's looking out the window with his face near the end, and the girl
Yeah.
looks up at the window and he comes running out. That's like nightmare fuel for me because I think I would have dreams like that when I was younger, seeing like a horrible face coming after me and I'm trying to run away. It just felt like a dream sequence. But Jason's a fantastic character. You know, he's obviously iconic. And the funny thing is, when you think of the Friday the 13th franchise, you think of Jason Voorhees. When you think of Jason Voorhees, you think of the hockey mask. But these things they didn't come straight away. You know, they had to get built up. You had first
Right.
had boy Jason, then you had the sackhead Jason. Then you had the hockey mask Jason. So he progressed all the way through the movies until the point he's Uber Jason and Jason X. You know, so he's had all these different looks and feelings throughout the entire franchise, even branching off into Freddy versus Jason. He had a few. And then you've got the remake from 2009 where he's back to basics. He's still that unstoppable force of nature, but he's still a really good character. So, yeah, Jason, there's not much else I can say about him. He's one of the classic, and he's part of the top 3 villains of all time in most people's books. So he's obviously on the list for me.
Yeah, my wife, unfortunately, she's gone. My number 4 is his rival, Freddy Krueger. Love Freddy, and I do want to say, like 1 through 5 for me could be interchangeable at any time. It was hard for me, especially with Freddy and Jason, because I grew up just like, I don't want to say idolizing, because that's really gross, but I loved these characters. I loved their movies, and obviously I wasn't like I want to go out and kill people with a hatchet or a finger knife. It was nothing like that.
Yeah.
But I loved these movies, and Nightmare on Elm Street especially will always be very special to me because I feel like, and I've said this before, people that watch Sledgehammer horror know, I feel like, in my opinion, Nightmare on Elm Street is the best horror movie ever made, except for the last 5 minutes. If I could go back in time and rework that ending, I totally would. But it's just a perfect movie. Like, the kills are so memorable. The villain is great. And Freddy only has like 7 minutes of screen time in the original film, but you feel like he's always there because that's how iconic and amazing he is. And to me, the only weak spot in this franchise is the Dream Child. I know a lot of people talk about Freddy's Dead, but Freddy's Dead did what it wanted to do. Like, it didn't set out to be this crazy horror movie. Freddy's Dead set out to be a goofy, wacky, fun time, and that's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really partial to that movie because I saw it in the theater with my uncle as a kid with the 3D glasses, and I thought that was just the coolest thing ever. But yeah, Freddy is just one of those villains that when he's dark, he's scary. when he's giving his one-liners, he's funny. Everything about him is just, he's a great villain. Anybody that put him anywhere near the top spot, I couldn't argue. So for today, my number 4 is going to be Freddy Krueger.
Yeah, no, that's good points you've made. And you made a good point about people's top 4 or top 5, that it's interchangeable. And sometimes it changes depending on maybe a new movie that comes out. And you think,
Sure.
that's great. That character's maybe elevated higher up. So, yeah, it just depends how you're feeling, and totally understand that. So, my next one, number 3, is Freddy Krueger. Hey, so yeah, he's in the top 3. So for all the reasons that you said, I agree with all the reasons that you've said. But for me, Freddy's Dead is the worst one. But I think it's watchable. I think it's actually okay. There's not a terrible Freddy movie, in my opinion. I think the worst one is watchable, and the Dream Child is kind of the same. It's just a watchable entry into the franchise. But obviously, Dream Warriors is fantastic. I'm glad that people are coming around to part 2 now, because I think part 2 was really hated for a long time. And I would watch it and say, how can people hate this movie? This is the scariest that Freddy Krueger has ever been. That dark, dark red skin that he's got. And then when it comes out of Jesse, is it Jesse? Yeah. It comes out of, no, not Jesse, sorry. Yeah, Jesse. He comes out and
attacks Grady.
Yeah, honestly, I was like, whoa, this is a scary movie. It's one of those films where when you're young and you watch movies on TV or rent it from the video store, you always remember the VHS cover and the opening dream sequence with the school bus.
Yeah.
It's so iconic. And that's when I started to love Freddy Krueger. It wasn't from part 1. It was from part 2. I think I probably saw part 2 first before part 1. Part 2 came out in 85 or 86 or something. So I was only a couple of years old, but I didn't see it until it was on TV in, say, 1990 or so. But I did see it really young, and it gave me nightmares. It scared me forever. And that's Freddy Krueger. And when I got a little bit older, when I was into the more meta horror films like Scream, I watched New Nightmare, and I thought it was so slick, so clever. And for a movie that brought back Heather Langenkamp, it brought back Wes Craven, and it just breathed new life into the franchise. It never went anywhere after that, but that one and done New Nightmare was fantastic. So there's not a terrible movie in the franchise, and most importantly, there's not a bad performance by Robert Englund in any of the movies. So that's why he's number 3.
Well, and you talked about number 2. Number 2, that's one of my favorite sequences of any nightmare movie. You're all my children now. You know, when they're at the pool, like that whole sequence is badass.
Yeah.
Like seeing Freddy go after numerous people at once, so awesome. Like such a great moment in that franchise.
I never thought we would see that. I thought he would always go after one person personally. Yeah, but then when he comes out and he's going after everyone, you're like, no one's safe here. It's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally agree. So me and you did the flippy floppy, because my number 3 is Jason Voorhees.
Oh, there you go.
And what I love about Jason, especially with like not even just Jason, just the Friday the 13th movies in general, where a lot of other franchises have connective tissue to connect them to each other, with the exception of the Tommy Jarvis trilogy of 4, 5, and 6. I look at every single Friday the 13th movie as its own standalone film. None of them have to connect. You don't have to watch part 1 to understand part 8, you know, like, so that's what I really love about the Friday the 13th franchise. And Jason was the first one for me. Like, that was the first, like, big villain that I can remember watching. And, you know, Friday the 13th part 3 was the one I watched the most as a kid. And, like, seeing him with the harpoon gun, you know, all these different things, or the crossbow, you know, harpoon. Yeah, he gets her with the harpoon. Like, that, all that just stuck with me so bad as a kid. And, you know, getting Shelly and putting on that hockey mask, you know, like there's so many amazing things. And Jason himself is just scary. And the more he goes, the more inventive he gets, whether, you know, you got him with the belt, you know, when he's twisting it like a tourniquet, crushing the face. Like, he's always just had the most unique kills of the big 3 for me. So I got to go with Jason Voorhees at number 3. Again, Friday the 13th, one of my favorite franchises of all time.
Yeah, totally understandable. Do you remember the scene in Jason Lives when he knocks over the van skids, and then he gets out and stands on top of the van? That is like epic Jason Voorhees because he's like standing tall, and it looked like a new movie as that shot comes out, the wide shot, and you're like, whoa, that looks pretty epic for a sixth movie in a franchise. So yeah, like you said, every Jason's different in every movie, and you can watch any entry and not need to know about the rest of them. It's that great. So yeah,
I've always felt like the Friday the 13th movies are like the Legend of Zelda of horror movies. You know, you can play Zelda 8 and not have to play number 1 to understand where the story went. So I just feel like they're all their own standalone things, and I think that that's absolutely amazing. And Jason Lives is actually my favorite in the franchise. And another super hot take, my second favorite is Jason Goes to Hell. I love that movie so damn much.
Well, it's different. I'll give you that. It's different.
It's definitely different.
Yeah. It's probably my second worst. Maybe my worst. Or second worst, I don't know. It's that and Jason X that kind of flip around. But again, everyone's different. Everyone loves Jason differently, and that's you. That's fine. That's great. So we're into the top 2 now. So I genuinely don't know what your top 2 is going to be, which is good. So my number 2 is Ghostface. Now, Ghostface for me, I tried to give a hint, but Ghostface for me is number 2, not because of any specific killer, but it's just because it's Ghostface. And Ghostface can genuinely live on forever. It could be anyone, but dons the mask. And it's not about whose motive is better than another one's or who's a better killer than the other ones. It's about just Ghostface itself and the phone call. Whoever's on that phone should and does know a lot about horror films, so you can connect, which is quite sick to say, but you can connect with the killer because you know what they're thinking. The more you know about horror movies, the more connection you have with the killer, and maybe the better chance you've got of surviving the horror movie that you're in with Ghostface. So it's just so clever, so slick. If I had to choose, then I would probably say Billy and Stu, of course, because they're the original killers. But there's nobody else in the franchise that I think is way better than the next. I do, over the years, I've got a little soft spot for Jill Roberts. I think she's nuts. When she's revealed as a killer, I was a little bit let down, but after she was revealed as a killer and you accept it, when she then starts to self-harm herself, I was like, whoa, I don't want to go near this girl. She is absolutely nuts.
Bananas.
So there's certain scenes for certain ghost faces that I really do enjoy, but as an overall character, Ghostface as an embodiment of a villain, then it's iconic, unbelievable. And it's good that it came way after characters like Jason and Freddy and stuff. It had to do catch up, and it caught up really fast because Ghostface is now one of the most marketable villains of all time.
No, I 100% agree. 100% agree with that.
So what's your number 2, Ken?
My number 2, my wife did talk about it. She is from my favorite horror sequel of all time, Dr. Sleep. That is my girl Rose the Hat. She's like Ashley said, like she's sexy and she's smart and she's cunning and she's just downright fucking terrifying. Like she is so scary. Like when they got the baseball boy out in the field, is it gonna hurt? I hope so. It makes it taste better. And she's just like, she's one of those. And you got the iconic moment, the reversal, where Danny's standing up on the top of the stairs with the axe, and she's walking up to him. Like, there's just so many. And the movie literally opens with an homage to Frankenstein. With Rose the Hat finding the little girl by the river, throwing the the flower petals into the water, and they end up getting that girl, which was Madeline McGraw. It was either Madeline or Violet, one of the two, from the Black Phone or Megan, your choice. One of those. It was one of them that she got, and it's just, again, I'm a huge fan of Rose the Hat. I just think she's cunning. I would love to get a prequel to Dr. Sleep, and I know that it's a sequel to The Shining, but I'd love to get a prequel of Rose the Hat's backstory and how she got to where they were, or a sequel to Dr. Sleep and follow Abra. and see what happens to Abra after the events of Dr. Sleep. So it's my favorite horror sequel of all time. So I had to include Rose the Hat. Huge sucker for Rose the Hat. She's my number 2.
Yeah, it's a good choice. I've only seen Doctor Sleep once, and I only seen the theatrical version. I know there's a director's cut that's like maybe an hour longer or something. There may be more of Rose the Hat in that, but there's something about anytime she's on screen, and this is all thanks to the cinematography, when you see her in the dark and she's touching her hat and you can see her eyes in the distance, I'm like, ooh. It's something you feel like you want to draw yourself towards her, but you shouldn't because she's not a very nice person. So yeah, it's sort of like the female Pennywise. You want to go and see, but you don't want to go near, you know?
Right.
Yeah, it's a good choice. I'll be honest, I never thought of Rose the Hat as part of any villains, but she's definitely great. And like I said, it's hard to choose female villains because I want to choose more female villains and give them their due. But I completely forgot about her, but great choice. Great choice.
See, and one of my honorable mentions was going to be Angela Baker. You know, I love Sleepaway Camp, and I wanted to include her, but I couldn't find anybody on the list to take off to put her on. So I'm with you. I love a good, strong female villain. I think that's terrifying. So obviously with Rose the Hat at number 2, you know, I love my female villains. So yeah. I totally get where you're coming from. Give them their due. They're not just the final girl. Sometimes they're the scariest one there.
Yeah, absolutely. There is one female villain that I just thought of there, but she wouldn't make the list, and that is Samara from The Ring.
The Ring.
Yeah, it might be your number 1. I'll never know. My number 1, you'll probably guess who it is, and I tried to not choose this person. Yeah, but I've chosen Michael Myers. I'm guessing you probably knew that was coming. But I tried so hard not to choose Michael Myers, but I don't want to fight my answer with myself. I just want to be honest with myself. So yeah, Michael Myers, and it's because Halloween was my entry to the horror franchises. You know your Jasons, your Michaels, your Freddys and stuff. And there was just something about Michael Myers, like Ashley said, it's more realistic, so you can connect with this killer more because it could be the boy next door that's doing these killings, and it's someone like Michael Myers. Whereas Jason, Freddy, as scary as they are, they're unrealistic. Obviously, going back to the original Halloween, when you see Michael Myers out in the washing line and Laurie's looking down and then he's gone. Who is this guy? Behind the hedge, he's gone. Who is this guy? And it's scary because he's just a random guy killing random people, and that's what makes it scarier. Obviously, as the movie progresses and the franchise gets bigger and bigger, they give you more answers to Michael and more backstory that you don't want to see. So unfortunately, it's a double-edged sword because I want to see 100 Halloween movies, but with every Halloween movie that comes out, you tend to go, I didn't want to see that. I didn't want to know that, So that's why I don't really like the Rob Zombie ones. They're okay. The first one's okay, but it explains too much of Michael Myers. So I'm like, I don't want to know anything about Michael Myers. That's why I love him. That's why he's at number 1, because I don't know anything about him. If we got to the end of David Gordon Green's Halloween trilogy and still know nothing about Michael, where has he been for 40 years? How is he able to survive? I don't want to know these things. I just want to know that Michael Myers is still out there killing people. Why? Who cares? I just want to know that he's out there killing people. That's what makes him scary. If we got that same Michael in every movie, then it would be amazing. Unfortunately, we didn't, but he's still strong enough to be there as my number 1 because he's the original boogeyman. So yeah, number 1. No surprise.
Right. And see, that's one of the biggest things I didn't like about Rob Zombie's Halloween is, they made it so he was picked on at school and he had a really bad home life. And, in the OG, he was just evil. He had the blackest eyes, the devil's eye, so that's why that's one part of the Rob Zombie Halloween movie I really was not a fan of. And for those of you that know me, again, my number 1, you knew as well, but
I know your number 1. I do know your number 1.
It's not about the destination, it's about the journey. But of course, my good guy friend here is number 1. Child's Play, it's my favorite horror franchise. You know, like you said earlier, it has weak entries. I still find the silver linings in them, like with Seed of Chucky. I think Seed of Chucky has some of the best kills in the whole franchise. You know, when you get like John Waters' face melting off with the acid, or
Yeah.
Redman eviscerated at the table and he's still steaming as his guts are falling on the floor. And then Cult of Chucky has some genuine moments where I laugh. You know, the moment of Chucky putting his hand down her throat and ripping out her esophagus, like a lot of gross stuff. And obviously Nika Pierce, I think she's a fantastic addition. And I'm in the minority where Child's Play 3 is my absolute favorite, which is funny because later tonight we'll be doing a Child's Play 3 watch along on our channel. So I hope you guys can make it out there. But yeah, I really, really love the idea of Chucky and Charles Lee Ray, you know, putting his soul into the doll. And then like the first one, like in the first movie, one of the most iconic kills of all time, you got John, the voodoo guy. You shouldn't tell your customers where you hide these things, John. Just breaking his arms and his legs. And in every movie I can talk about, like in Child's Play 2, a moment that scared me more than probably any other horror movie that I can think of off the top of my head was when the doll eyes went into the technician. And then you see him with the doll eyes. That moment as a little boy watching this scared me so bad. That was one of those moments that until I was probably like 12 or 13, every time that scene came up, I was like, nope. That image scared me so bad. And, you know, Bride of Chucky really did breathe new life into the franchise with the addition of Tiffany. And, you know, the Heart of Damballa, as ridiculous as it was. And then you get Seed of Chucky, which I feel like at the time they were trying to do their representation of trans. I think they didn't nail it. I thought that the representation they did was really, really shitty. And then like you said, then you get Curse that comes out and you watch Curse of Chucky and you're like, wow, they really went back and nailed it. I didn't like how they retconned the first movie, you know, and her mom was there, but the part with Daniel Buschetti where he's like, you got your mom's eyes. They were always too close together. And he stabs her eyeball out. Like, oh my gosh, that's just oh gosh. Yeah, and unlike her, I did like season 1 of Chucky, the TV series, a lot. Yeah. I thought season 1 was really good. Season 2 was just way too much for me. Even in their own world, they did a lot of stuff that didn't make any sense. Like throughout the whole first season, they'd never heard of the good guy doll. They had never heard of Chucky. And then in the very first episode of season 2, they see the Tiffany doll. And they're like, hey, that's that Tiffany doll from those Chucky movies. And it's like, what? You didn't know anything about the Chucky movies. What do you mean? Like, so they definitely messed with the lore. And I see that season 3 is going to Washington, D.C. And Don Mancini is not very subtle when it comes to, you know, a representation and stuff like that. So I don't feel like he's going to be very subtle about the political views he has in this season. So again, I don't have high hopes. I hope that maybe we're only in Washington, D.C. for a fraction of time and we don't have to put up with a bunch of political bullshit because we got to deal with that everywhere we look anyway. Yeah. But yeah, Chucky's that's it for me, man. Like he's evil. Like, you know, even like I was talking about Child's Play 3, my favorite in the franchise, when he takes out the paintball bullets and he shoves the rifles with real ammo. You know, not only did you kill that guy, but the guy that shot him now is fucked up for the rest of his life because he just killed another kid. Like, it's just everything about Chucky to me is just amazing. It will always be my favorite franchise. He'll always be my favorite villain. That's my number one. Yeah,
that's understandable. Child's Play and Chucky, unfortunately for people in the UK, I don't know if anyone in the chat's from the UK, but Chucky is quite controversial in the UK because it was banned. Child's Play 3 was banned in the UK because there was a little boy called Jamie Bulger who died, unfortunately, and he was killed in the same manner as certain things that happened in Child's Play 3. So they blamed Child's Play for the death of this young boy. So we never got to see it for a long time because after the events of what happened, Child's Play 3 was just completely removed from video stores, understandably. Anyone who had it would still keep their copy of it, but it just never came back to the UK for years. So I think Child's Play 3 was like kind of the black sheep of the franchise because people, even when it still came out, people were like, well, I'm not watching that movie because it reminds us of what happened. But you can't really blame, like Scream, you can't really blame the movies for what happens to people. But
Right.
That's just what they done back then. But yeah, I like Child's Play 3. I thought it was really good. And I think it's because it was rare to watch because it was hard to get for us for a while, but it was decent. And I liked the change up of Andy. It was played by Justin
Whalen.
Justin Whalen.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he was a good actor, and I think it was probably best for it to be replaced at that point because Andy, what's his name? Who is it?
Why am I Alex Vincent?
Alex Vincent. He wasn't really an actor. He was just like a kid actor at the times, and he went off and done his own thing. So it was good to change it up with Justin Whalen. But yeah, I liked Child's Play 3. But my favorite in the franchise is Child's Play 2.
Can't argue.
It's the creepiest one. That scene in the school when he brings out the ruler and says, "You've been very naughty, Mrs. Kettlewell." I was just like, "Oh my god, this is crazy! Kill her! I don't like my teacher." Yeah, she was horrible. She's yeah, she was absolutely horrible. But yeah, so many iconic moments in the franchise. But Child's Play 2, the ending, in the factory. Wow, the score, the mood, the atmosphere. Even Chucky himself, Brad Dourif, turns it up to 100 in Child's Play 2. He's funny and scary in part 1, but I felt like they gave him more range in part 2. They probably thought, you were the best thing about Child's Play, do what you want. And he's thought, yes, okay, here I go. And that was the iconic one for me. Even the kind of pastel-y looking house that they're in, the foster parents, Jenny Agutter, that house is scary. It feels like a creepy house that you don't want to be in. Yeah, I could talk all day about Child's Play 2 because it's absolutely fantastic.
And I think Child's Play 2 is when you have your best. I think that Chucky, like you said, I think he's top notch in part 2 because yes, he's given his one line. You've been naughty, Mrs. Kettlewell. How's it hanging, Phil? You still get those one-liners, but he's still just the epitome of evil and scary, and like the moment where he's alive and it's panning around the dark house and the lightning is crashing. Then you just see him at the bottom of the stairs looking up. Like that's another iconic scene to me that it's just like, wow, that's terrifying. Or when he's putting the knife into his nub. Like there's just so many moments in Child's Play 2. It's hard to argue when people say that's my favorite. I'm like, I get it. I completely get it because it's a fantastic movie.
There's a bit in when it was the dog I think he killed, and Kyle is swinging on the swing.
Oh, the other good guy doll.
Yeah. Oh, the good guy doll. Yeah, and she's swinging, and it starts to unravel, and he's looking at his eyes, looking at it. I'm like, oh my! I don't want him to get caught here, but I do. It's weird, but yeah, Child's Play 2 is one of my favorites, and although Child's Play and Chucky are not at the top of my list, they still made the list. And for good reason.
Exactly.
Because, again, Chucky is iconic. Everyone in my list is iconic. Didn't quite make the top 3, 4 or whatever, but he's still definitely up there. And I can completely understand yourself or anyone putting Chucky as their number 1 because he holds so many great memories for people over 35 years, So yeah, definitely good reasons for being your number 1. So that's us come to the end of our list, guys. I'll just go through the chat just to see if anyone wants to give us anyone on your list that we've not put down, then I'm happy to listen to it. I've seen a few of them and I can't find anywhere that someone said. Dude made a good point here. The military school was a cool setting for Child's Play 3. I like that. I like the little, I can't remember the little kid's name. Tyler?
Yep.
Yeah, he's the one that finds the doll. I like him. He's a good character as well. So I like the military setting, completely different to the first 2 Child Play movies.
Exactly.
I'm glad they changed it up. I think it's one of those films that gets better with age and people appreciate it more as movies and TV shows come out. Maybe it's because some people don't like the TV show, but yeah, I liked it. Here's a good one. Necronomic Animal said Victor Crowley.
Yeah, good call,
really
Necro. Good call.
Yeah. I thought Hatchet was going to be this really bad Z horror movie, but when I watched the first one, I thought it's only going to be made because of all these great horror icons, but it was creepy. It was really well made. See that scene when he came out and grabbed the person's mouth and just ripped him open? I was like, whoa, because
Yeah.
bringing someone like Victor Crowley so late in the game felt like it was going to be pointless, but it wasn't. I thought Victor Crowley was great. Some great kills throughout that franchise as well. Have you seen the 4 of them? There's 4 of them.
I have not. I've seen the first 3. I haven't seen the last one yet.
Do you know the last one's decent? I thought it was really good. I thought it was better than 2 and 3.
Okay.
It was good. I can't. You know, I've only seen it once. There's a few really good scenes, a few good kills, and it's a funny movie, but it's still good, still really good. I can't remember if it was directed by Adam Green. Maybe it wasn't. No,
Adam's just a great guy too. Like he's one of those guys. Every time you meet him at a con or something, like he remembers you. He loves to shake your hand, loves to talk to you. He's just another one of those guys that's just really appreciative of every fan that comes his way. He doesn't take it for granted, and those to me are the best people.
Yeah, I don't know if you know, but he's a massive fan of the Monster Squad as well, which is good. He was actually on the documentary Wolfman's Got Nards, so I love him. Absolutely love him for that. He also directed. Have you seen Frozen?
Yeah,
yeah, with the 3 3 skiers. That was a good film. So he's definitely got an eye for a good horror film, and obviously Hatchet was a really good one. Came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think everyone's agreeing with you, Ken. Everyone loves Chucky. Ashton says, I love Chucky. Ashton also said, if I watched Child's Play before Halloween, Chucky would probably be my favorite.
Which is fair. And I think, like you and I talked about, Barry, I think a lot of this goes to not just how we feel about the characters, but nostalgia points too.
Yeah,
what we grew up watching, what we gravitated to growing up. I've talked about that a lot. My life would be a lot different if I discovered Halloween before I discovered Friday the 13th. I think that the way that I view Halloween would be it'd be completely flipped 180 if I had seen that first.
Yeah.
Like I said, I've grown to really respect that franchise, and I think there's a lot of amazing moments throughout that franchise. I think it's a great franchise. There has its weak moments that I'm not a big fan of, but Michael, to me, now that I'm an adult, I have kids, Michael's one of the scariest villains. Because like I said, he could be the guy next door that you think and you don't.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Ashton also said, wanted to put Samara on since The Ring was my first horror movie, but couldn't squeeze her in. Yeah, I mean, Samara, I'm not a fan of American remakes for Japanese horror, but The Ring, it did something for me because of some of the moments in the movie, especially with the first time you see Samara coming out that TV towards Martin Henderson. That was a freaky moment. I was an adult when I saw the movie, but it still freaked me out because I wasn't expecting to see what I saw. So yeah, I think Samara's a decent one. If anyone puts Samara on the list, I don't think I could argue with that because she's scary and she can do anything to you. So yes, it's a good one. Nathan Mills said Miss Trindoni from Alice Street Alice. I've never seen that.
That's my boy Nathan, his good friend of mine. Alice Sweet Alice is his favorite. That's his jam.
Oh,
so
right.
I figured Nathan would have Alice Sweet Alice on the list somewhere. Mr. Trindoni. I knew that was coming somewhere.
Yeah. Have you seen that movie? Is it good?
Oh yeah. It's a slasher film. Very, very fun slasher film. Late 70s, early 80s, I want to say.
Yeah. Mark says, Bruce the Shark didn't make either of your top 10. Sickening. See, I actually saw that comment when it came in. I was like, Bruce from Finding Nemo. But I got my kids' movie brain on. But obviously, the shark from thingy.
Fish are friends, not food.
Yeah. Ashton says, Jill is in my top 5 Ghostface killers. That's good. Well, say that, though. There only is about many Ghostface killers, are there? 10? 9?
Gotta be. Yeah, because there was only Roman in part 3.
Yeah. So that's kind of middle of the road
13?
then.
Would that be 13 then, right? She got 2 and 1, 2 and 2, 1 and 3, 2 and 4, 2 and 5, 2 and 6. Yeah, so at this point we're at 11.
12, because there's 3 in.
Oh, there's 3 in part 6. You're right. Yeah. So we're at 12. So top 5 out of 12 ain't too bad.
Yeah, it's not too bad. Dude says Jason Goes to Hell is a fun watch. I enjoy the moments when OG Jason's on screen and the effects are quite good. That's one thing I will give that movie is the effects are really good. I think in 1993 they got to a point where they were toying with CGI, but they still used a lot of practical effects. So I think that was one of the last movies that still used a lot of good practicals in the movie. So I don't deny it. I don't like the movie. I don't hate it either, but I just think it was too different for me, to be honest.
What I love about that movie is it really ties in 3 franchises together, because you get the Friday the 13th, the Evil Dead, and the Nightmare on Elm Street franchises all coming together. Like when you have him pick up the Necronomicon and he starts looking through the Necronomicon, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. And Adam Marcus wanted to talk about the Necronomicon in the movie, and they couldn't because New Line didn't own the rights. So Sam Raimi gave Adam Marcus his personal copy of the Necronomicon to put in the movie as an Easter egg. Then you have Steven go over and he starts looking through the pages, and the dagger that he has is so obviously the Kandarian dagger from Evil Dead, but they can't say the name because they don't own the rights. So, and then obviously you get Freddy's glove at the end, taking Jason's mask down. There's just, again, you want to talk about a movie I could make a whole 6-hour podcast about. It's Jason Goes to Hell, man. Like I could do hours and hours of talking about how amazing that film is to me.
See, I like that about people, that you defend a movie that some people won't consider good. And the way you defend it, see, as long as you give your points as to why you like it, then no one can argue with you. I'm the same with Halloween H2O. I absolutely adore H2O, but I know that a lot of people hate it.
That's my second favorite in the franchise.
Same, second favorite. So, and it's because I grew up loving teen slasher movies. When I was a teenager, I fell out with horror movies for a time because I just wanted to go and play football or soccer with my friends. And then I decided, I'm going to start watching movies again. And H2O was one of those first ones that I went back to, the teen slasher phase. And it always holds a great memory in my childhood or teenhood. So H2O is great. And I've got so many things I would say about H2O because I defend it. And just like you, with some of the movies that you've seen, people might not like them, but you love them. And I know you're a big fan of House. Yeah?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's my all-time favorite.
But people hate that movie.
I don't get it.
What? I don't get it either. Even House 2, the second story, absolutely love House 2, but people hate these movies. But there you go. As long as there you go. Great.
Yeah, it's my favorite movie. That was my first horror movie. Without House, we wouldn't be here together right now.
Yeah. Again, I've got great memories of House. If somebody said to me, give me your top 10 nostalgic movies, not best, but nostalgic, then House is up there. Probably in the top 3, because that's unbelievable. It reminds me of the video store. It reminds me of VHS covers. It reminds me of everything to do with horror. I just love it. It's great. I love the soundtrack, and I'm a sucker for like 50s music and 60s music, and the score and the music they've got in it. It's great. It's just so good. Nostalgic. It's fantastic.
Oh yeah.
Somebody made a good point. I knew this would get said, but Nathan said there's 5 in Scream 6, as in 5 killers.
The opening 2.
Yeah, Jason and Greg. So I suppose you could say there's 14 killers then. I don't really count them. I actually done my favorite Ghostface killers, like all 12, and I didn't include Jason and Greg because I felt like, are they actually the killers? But to be fair, Jason did kill someone, so maybe you could. I don't know.
Right.
It's a little bit too much. I don't know. Dude says Bill Mayer's best role in House 2. Who's Bill Mayer again?
He's also in the Dream Warriors. He's a news guy now.
Oh yeah, I know who Bill Mayer is. I was thinking of, what'd you call him? Oh, from Toy Story and Cheers. Ham from Toy Story.
Yeah.
Oh, he plays the electrician guy that comes in.
Yeah.
Oh my
Shoot,
God.
what is his name?
He's in all the Pixar movies.
Yeah, he's in like every Pixar movie there is.
Yeah, him. He was in House 2 as well. He's good.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry, I need to search his name. That's annoying me. Cheers. Toy Story. There he is. John Ratzenberger.
Yep.
Yeah, that's him. Yeah, sorry, I had to search his name. That was going to annoy me. So Yeah, George Wendt as well. Troy says George Wendt. He was in part 1.
He was in part 1.
Next
The
door neighbor.
neighbor.
He's funny. And it was William Catt that was in part 1 as well. William Catt actually made a return in House 4.
Yeah, for like he's in like the first 10 minutes of the film.
Yeah, and then he gets killed in the car accident or something.
Yeah. House 4 is a weird film because like it can't make up its mind if it wants to be a horror movie or a comedy. Like it's just a weird movie to me.
Mm-hmm. It reminded me of Texas Chainsaw Massacre, The Next Generation.
Yeah, I can see that.
The people coming in from outside, sort of like I don't know if it's a political thing, but yeah, it was just so random and weird. I didn't like it, but again, I've got a nostalgic thing about House 4 that I will watch it because I watched it when I was a kid. So it's just one of those movies, but yeah. But yeah, I think that's us come to the end, guys. Yeah, we're all caught up now. But thanks to Ashley, who's not here just now, but I'm sure she'll watch the rest of the video. And again, thanks for Ken for sticking around and coming on to the show and doing a little something different. I've not done something like this before on the channel, so it's good to have someone on, kind of bounce off. And
this was a blast, man. I appreciate it. I really do. It was amazing to be back with you.
Yeah, no, it's good. And again, we need to do more of these in the future, whether it be about Chucky or Halloween or anything. But it's good to get the live streams done. Like I said, I don't do that many live streams, but I'm trying to get some in there for September, October, just to get some more live streams out for the lead up to the Halloween season, because it's always fun to talk to other people about things that we love, which is great.
Anytime you want to talk horror, I'm in. I'm 100% available. I have a great time anytime we hang out, man.
Yeah, no, that's good. But if you want to stay with me, Ken, we'll just say goodbye to all the people who stuck in with the chat. I've seen that people who are commenting just now have been here for the hour and a half, which is great. So thanks for everyone who's tuned in, given your examples, and just been watching us throughout the show. It's been great. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Thanks a lot for subscribing. And before you go as well, anyone who subscribed to me and you don't know who Ken is or Ashley, again, they're part of Sledgehammer Horror. I will, after this is all processed and stuff, I'll put a link down below to your guys' channel. So if anyone wants to check it out, then please do so. They put up lots of great content. I found Ken through contacting me. And ever since you contacted me, Ken, I've been watching your channel all the time, which is great. I've watched some of your live streams as well.
Thanks,
and
man.
I found a few new people from the people that you interview, which is great as well. So definitely check them out, guys. A lot of fun. They do a lot of great horror content. Check them out if you haven't already. If you have, then just continue watching them. They're absolutely great. So anyway, guys, thanks a lot for watching. Thanks for subscribing, and we'll see you soon. Bye, guys.
See ya.